Hey, this is Matt. I'm going to be doing a comparison between the old custom class 412 A30 by Hughes Kettner, loaded with Celestion vintage 30s, with the new Triamp cabinet, the TC 412 A60, loaded with the RockDriver Classic 60 speakers. So when I bought my Triamp Mark III, a question popped into my head: do I really need the new Triamp cabinet, or can I stick with my old custom class cabinet with the vintage 30s? I was mainly concerned about the speakers, what was going to be optimal for this amplifier. Was there even really going to be much of a sound difference? Am I just kind of wasting my time just getting an upgraded cabinet that's going to sound relatively the same? And this video is to kind of show you, no, these cabinets are not created equal. They do not sound the same. I don't even really think they sound close to being the same. But the real question is it better? Do I need to spend the money on a new one, or can I use something I already have that has speakers in it that I like? Unfortunately, the only speakers that I have in here are these two cabinets. But the question I'm really trying to ask is, do I need to upgrade? I would highly recommend it, upgrading. I really like this cabinet a lot. You can definitely tell this cabinet is made for this amplifier because the sound is so much more focused than this cabinet with the vintage 30s. It is perfectly safe to run this amp with a cabinet that only handles 100 watts, so long as you're careful with how you run the power section and where you have the master volume set. You definitely don't want to run this at 150 watts, full volume through a 100-watt cabinet. You're going to fry your speakers. But the new Triamp cabinet has a handling of 240 watts, which is more than enough power. It's very powerful sounding. Like I said, the low end, the mid-range, and the high end, the whole cabinet just sounds so focused. You can crank up the volume, and you can walk a pretty good distance away from the cabinet, and you can still hear the clarity of the amp through this cabinet very, very well. The low end carries, the high ends carry. The mid-range especially sounds good when you start walking away from it. But this cabinet is kind of like, sounds a little bit soft compared to the new Triamp cabinet. I'm not entirely certain that if that has anything to do with the wattage that it's rated for, or if it's just the speakers. But I'm really hoping to get to some audio in a second. I'm gonna probably do like a clean channel, a rock channel, and then I'm gonna try to demo the 3B channel and see if I can't capture what the amp sounds like through the new cabinet versus the old cabinet. That's basically what I'm after. So hopefully I can get my microphone placements pretty good, pretty accurate. I'm gonna be dialing in a good sound with the Triamp cabinet, and then I'm gonna be starting with this cabinet, and then just kind of keeping the settings pretty much the same going from cabinet to cabinet. I'm going to be miking the speakers in this. Going to try to get the miking on the same placement on the speaker on both speakers to try to minimize the differences. But I really hope this video can do this some justice. And one more thing before I get started, I said that the new cabinet makes the vintage 30s sound a little bit soft, and I think that's true. The low end is a lot tighter with the Triamp cabinet than the vintage 30s. The mid-range, the vintage 30s have a little bit of more of a scooped, natural sounding mid-range. When I say natural and scooped, I mean it's got a nice warm mid-range, but it does have a little bit of that scooped sound while still remaining nice and round and thick and full. But the Triamp cabinet is just a lot grittier. It's the mid-range. The mids are a lot more in your face. It's awesome. But I think the main thing that I was worried about with the Triamp cabinet when I first tried it was the sharpness of the upper mids and the high end. This cabinet puts out high frequencies very, very efficiently. So the first thing I had to do when I put plugged this amp into the new cabinet was to back the presence off a lot. The vintage 30s have a little bit more of a mellow high end compared to the RockDrivers. The RockDrivers will really crunch up a sound. They seem to just excel in high end frequencies, and it's really nice. But you really got to watch your high end in these speakers to make sure you're not getting too much crunch. But it's really nice because you can kind of dial back the treble of your channels without kind of losing any of the high end clarity of the amp. So when you try to add more high end into an amplifier to get that clarity, sometimes it can add a little bit of brittleness and harshness. But if you kind of balance the presence and the treble on each channel, you kind of find that you don't really struggle with that. You mix them both together to get the sound that you want, and eventually, I didn't have a hard time at all getting the sound I wanted out of the Triamp cabinet. So that is basically a little mini review of the two. If I had to pick one of these two cabinets, I would definitely go with the Triamp cabinet, just because it's thicker, it's fuller, it's louder, and it's just more focused, and it's awesome. So, and it can handle the 150 watts of the Channel 3B, which is a winner in my book. So let's get to the audio.